I'm joined by Mr. R. Kannan, someone who has been an expert and an author of books on DMK leaders, prime leaders. Sir, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Kannan. Uh, the 2026 assembly elections, do you see it as something that is going to change the road on which the politics in Tamil Nadu has been so far?
I think so. This has been a very different election. It's been an election with, the TVK leader Vijay predicted it would be akin to the 1967 and in 1977 watershed elections of Tamil Nadu, and it has proven to be so. So until about 2005, from the inception of the state, it had been a political duopoly. Initially, the communists and the Congress, and later the DMK and the Congress, and after that, the two Dravidian parties. And in 2005, there was a third force that was emerging, but it got snuffed out for various reasons around 2011 and so on. And then after the demise of the disappearance of the titans in the Tamil political landscape in 2016 and 2017, there was a huge void for a very charismatic figure, because the Tamils are used to extremely charismatic figures from Rajaji onwards. Rajaji, Kamaraj, Annadurai, um, Kalaignar Karunanidhi, MGR, Jayalalitha. So such colossuses had straddled the Tamil political landscape for a while. And then so when there was a void, that void needed to be filled. And then after 2021, the anti-DMK opposition space was also rather vacant. And in 2024, when a charismatic figure in actor Vijay emerged to challenge the what looked like a DMK monopoly more than a duopoly, I think people embraced him. So in the future, I think although now it looks like a tripod, it looks like a trilateral race, and it looks like Tamil Nadu essentially has three major forces. I think over a period of time, I think there are hard times ahead for the AIADMK, and it would again turn into a duopoly.
So you mentioned larger than life figures, and yes, Mr. Vijay also was in another way a very larger than life figure who came and created history, should I say, in these elections as well. Uh, the kind of crisis that we have seen in the last 1 week, and the proposal of an AIADMK government headed by Mr. EPS, which was to be backed by the DMK. We have confirmation from both the parties that yes, there was such a proposal on the table. Did it show really the nervousness of these parties that someone like Vijay is going to come and probably occupy that political space over the next 5, 10, 15 years? Is that why they were seeming to be acting in panic?
Indeed, and absolutely so. I completely agree with you. And this had happened even before. You may recall in 1974, Kamaraj and Indira Gandhi came together briefly because the following year Kamaraj passed away, and he was not very happy with the introduction of the emergency and Mrs. Gandhi's authoritarian manners. So, 1969, the Congress split into two, with Indira leading the new faction against the old syndicate, of which Kamaraj was a very important and an integral element. So from 69 to 74, they were at odds with each other, and they carried out a confrontational politics trying to outdo the other. And with the emergence of MGR in 1972, these two very irreconcilable Congress forces decided to patch up in Pondicherry and contest the elections as one. So I think history is repeating itself. Except MGR was a grossly underestimated figure for a very long time, until 1977, until he really managed to win the parliamentary polls. Until then, the DMK party largely stayed with Kalaignar Karunanidhi, although it was vertically split cadre-wise. It was half the cadres, half the popular backing had moved on to shifted to MGR, as we saw later. This time, Vijay, I think they've learned from the opposition has learned from its mistakes. Now the ruling party, so they underestimated Vijay. Like most of the observers, even I felt that he would be a kingmaker, but not the king himself. So they've woken up, and then they've put aside their They are very serious differences. In fact, very raison d'etat for their existence. I mean, there would be no AIADMK if there is no DMK, and then vice versa. So they were willing to, overcome these fundamental differences with the arrival of a common threat in their mind, Vijay.
This is a election where we are seeing for the first time in probably 6 decades that both the Dravidian parties are not going to be in power. And like you mentioned, seems to be also a real threat that the AIADMK may not be able uh, to see through this period without a break. Already there seem to be indications that the party is in trouble. Do you foresee developments like that where actually one of the Dravidian parties, which is AIADMK, may actually see a decline quite drastically, such that it doesn't probably exist as it did in the past in the political firmament of Tamil Nadu?
There is the likelihood of it weakening further. Already, there are reports of a split within the party. I think EPS's leadership will be, in the immediate future, his leadership will be questioned. And in the long term future, much depends upon how the party reinvents and then passes on the mantle to younger leaders who can, put on a spirited fight to this younger rival whose charisma seems unmatched and is inexplicable. So, how do you fight this new force?
The other big concern actually is every party has now said yes, we want a stable government in Tamil Nadu, but it is a very fragile majority that we are seeing. Is there a real danger that this fragility is going to be exploited by many of these players who are now actually lent outside support to the TVK here? Is that a real danger for Vijay? And do you see any way out of it for this leader and for this party?
If these 5 days are any indication, yes. They held him to ransom. They held this very major popular rival. These teeny meeny parties who probably won't be able to win a single seat without an alliance held him, at gunpoint, and so yes, I wish him well. I dread to be in his place, but the option is. I think all these parties have tarnished their own name and image in the process. I think at least amongst the intelligentsia, I don't know about the common man, but amongst the intelligentsia, the true faces of, including the TVK, has been revealed. Nobody has come out as a winner in these 5 days, and so the Tamils know who their leaders are, who their past leaders were, who their future leaders are going to be, and that is quite a revelation. Okay, the only option out is to get a complete mandate to go meet with the people afresh. So if there is a crisis and it's because of one of these tiny parties, I think Vijay should take it upon himself as an opportunity, and I think that's what his thinking is now. And go meet the people and seek a fresh mandate. And I think this time, if he has played his cards well, and if he has even given a reasonably good government, and I hope he does, then I think they will bail him out. They will want to see him again back in action. Otherwise, this fund of goodwill and support that he has can as quickly evaporate. So the hard act is not winning the elections. The hard act is he's on a treadmill now that is on full gear. So before he has to keep running. The only way he can get down is when the treadmill shuts off. And this is a treadmill that never shuts off until you really want to retire or people force retirement on you. So I mean, everybody wants to be here. And then when they reach here, they wonder why the heck did they want to reach? I mean, why did they aspire for this in the first place? It's a crown of thorns. It's a nightmare, but he's there. And yes, there are glorious moments. He's hailed, but everything passes. Everything is fleeting. And so long as he understands that, and then he has a heart in the right place, and his ears to the ground, I think he'll do well.
So, like you very well put it so well that this is actually a treadmill from which it is very difficult to get off. If you slow down, you're in trouble. If you stop, you're going to fall off, and you have to keep running to keep abreast with it. Uh, Tamil Nadu per se has done very well on several indicators, and both these parties have come with a lot of experience. How do you expect someone like an actor like Mr. Vijay? He's a debutant in politics itself, leave alone having the experience of a minister or even an MLA. How do you expect him to cope? That is one very important aspect of it. And second is, so far he's shown himself to be almost like a social recluse. He performs very well in public, but he has never interacted with people, and you don't really know what his views are, and he has not taken the trouble to express himself at all. Are these personality traits, as they seem to be, also going to be a challenge for Vijay?
I hope not. I hope not, and I hope that he will remedy some of these imperfections in him and enhance his hone up his skills. After all, when Kamaraj took over in 1954, he had no administrative experience, and he was a man of few words. All the talking was left to his able lieutenants, and he was a very confident man who was a man of action and deeds and not words. So Vijay could fashion himself after Kamraj, who happens to be one of his one amongst the pantheon of leaders that he has put out. So there is ample evidence to be a Kamaraj, to be a very talkative E.V. Ramasamy Periyar, to be a very charismatic MGR, a long-winded, etc. But I think the most important thing is if you can speak or understand the language of the masses, which MGR and most of these leaders or all these leaders did display and did have this particular skill, a very consummate skill that you and I probably don't possess, and that's why we are not in public life. So once they have that, once if he can prove that he has it, all this awkwardness, social awkwardness, this the shyness with which he hasn't still done a presser so far, all this I think over a period of time might I would think could be mitigated to some extent. I don't think he's going to transform himself into a social bee. But so was Rajiv Gandhi, but he managed to transcend it. So I think the pressures of office, the pressures of public life will make some of this change happen. But the innate Vijay will remain. But then after all, he's an actor, he's a performer, and I hope he performs.
Sure, indeed. Finally, if you were to be advisor to Mr. Vijay, what would you tell him today?
I've already said what I would advise him. I would say, don't let this get into your head because everything is fleeting. There's the very same people who have taken you to the hilltop will drown you in no time. If you have any doubts about this, just go to Senatoff Road. Just look at Aam Aadmi's chief. Just look at there's plenty of and I can tell you what Kamaraj said. Kamaraj in his heydays, he was no more in his heydays. In the evening of his life, he told somebody, "Look, I mean, there's nobody. He was the only one at home, along with his help." And then these people were very reluctant to move in because this was a very tall leader who was a chief minister, who was the All India Congress president, who was a kingmaker, etc., etc. So they were hesitant. These were young students, and then they were waiting to see him. And then he walked in with just a towel on him, around him, wrapped around his waist. And then he said, "Come on in." And then he said, how busy this house used to be when I had office. I think I'll leave it there. So you have the heart with the people, you have the ears to the ground. Don't go off and ensconce yourself into the ivory tower. Um, be with the people. You will be fine.
Okay, those are very fine words of advice indeed. Thank you so much, Mr. Kannan, for your perspective on what the government is going to look like, and more importantly, your word of advice to Vijay. And I do hope he is listening because this is something perhaps that will keep him in good stead through his innings as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.